Hello, welcome to week 5 of Comp 1. Today we're going to go through the OWL Purdue website. We're also going to go over how to access the databases through the CARC library and how to find your best sources. So, if you have your Moodle pulled up, like I have mine pulled up, you're going to want to go to resources because this is where we get started for all of this. The first link takes us to the CARC library. Let's start there. Remember, I offered for students to come at 9:30 on Tuesday to have Megan Coates go over the databases and how to access those through the CARC library website. Keep in mind that for now, we can only access these databases when on campus using the CARC Wi-Fi or one of the libraries on the CARC campus. Make sure that you're at a CARC computer or connected to their Wi-Fi. Once you are and you get to the library website like I'm at, you're going to want to scroll down to where it says on-campus databases. Once you click on on-campus databases, it's going to bring up 5 different databases that you have access to through the CARC website. Click on EBSCOhost just to show you how it works. And this is one that I am most familiar with. So once you click on that one, you want to click on EBSCOhost Web. Then you're going to click on Select All, Continue, and something I like to do is click on this Advanced Search. That way I have 3 different search bars that I can put information into. Remember to keep your information concise and to the point. The more information you put into the search bars, the less likely you are to pull up articles that are related to what you want. So, since we're going to be talking about poverty, I'm going to type poverty into the first one, because remember, our expository paper is supposed to be over poverty and one aspect of poverty. Then I'm going to type in education, because I'm going to pretend like I'm talking about how poverty affects education. And if I want to be even more specific, I could say, how does poverty affect the education of a specific group? So we could say higher education or adult education. So we could put adult. Down here, I always want to make sure that I click on apply related words. Also search within the full text of the articles, linked full text, and scholarly peer-reviewed journals. Why did I click those? Well, apply related words means that they are going to look up terms such as poverty, education, and adult, and any words that are related to poverty, education, and adult. Also search within the full text of the articles means that they are not just going to look through the titles of these articles, they're also going to look within the articles themselves to see if these words pop up. Full text means that they are only going to give us those articles that we actually have access to the entire text. That's important because we don't want to use articles where we do not have very much access to them. And then the scholarly peer-reviewed journals, the reason I click that is because now I know that all of these articles are scholarly peer-reviewed articles, which means that I can trust what they say. I don't have to worry about there being any sources that are not credible. Then I'm going to hit the search. Let's see how many we get to pull up. So it looks like initially it pulled up 164 4,111. But we're not going to read all of those. Usually, I would say within the first couple of pages, you should be able to find your article. And if not, go back and adjust your terms up here. If I scroll down and I'm looking at the left side, right now it's showing me all of the results. But let's say I only want the academic journals because, as we know, it is an article from an academic journal that I'm requiring you to use in your second paper. So I'm going to click on that and update it to where I just have access to articles in academic journals that have poverty, education, and adult all in there. So I'm just going to go through and read some of the titles. The titles are right here next to the numbers: corruption-driven inequalities in access to adult education, the pedagogy of poverty, instructional and technological challenges, androgyny in prison, higher education in prison, and the tenets of adult education. Sections: Minneapolis, race, pandemic, and adult education. Counseling, a trauma-informed and culturally sensitive approach in adult education. So if I go back to that very first one, corruption-driven inequalities in access to adult education, I'm going to click on that one just to see what it's about. So right here in the center, it tells me immediately who the authors are, where the source came from. It's called Adult Education Quarterly. That's the journal this specific article's found in. It also tells me some of the subjects, the document type, which is an article, and then it gives me an abstract, which, if you remember, an abstract just gives you the general idea of what's going on in that paper. So let's read that abstract to see if it might be something that I would be interested in reading more. The article aims to show that taking into account diverse characteristics of the wider social environment is indispensable for a better understanding of participation in adult education. It explores the association of corruption as a macro factor with PAE, which is participation in adult education, arguing for an integrated approach to PAE by using two indexes for corruption at country level: Corruption Perception Index and the Index of Public Integrity, and microdata for adults aged 25 to 64 from 29 European countries in the Adult Education Survey from 2016, as well as by applying random effects logic models. This study has demonstrated that a country's higher corruption level is associated with the lower probability of PAE. Our article also reveals that the relationships between individual level variables such as gender, higher education, social background, and PAE are embedded in a wider social milieu, and corruption is an essential characteristic of that milieu, which deepens some of the inequalities in PAE. So let's pretend for a second like this is exactly the type of article I'm looking for. If it's not, I can always hit result list and go right back to that initial result list. But if it is something I think would work, I can click on one of these two options, these links right here, that will take me to the full text. So I'm going to click on a PDF full text. Once that PDF full text is up, I have access to the entire article. I can print it out from over here on the right. I can email it to myself, and I can find the citation for it. So if I decide to email it to myself, I would put my email address right here. And then over here, I would want to make sure I click on APA 7th edition formatting so that when it sends it to me, it's going to send me exactly what I'm supposed to put on my reference list. So that's very helpful. Now, let's say I look at this and I see it's 23 pages long. I don't want to read 23 pages. I only need to know when it starts talking about poverty. So I can press Control F and a little search bar right here will pop up. And I can type in poverty. And it mentions poverty 3 times in this article. And if I click on these arrows, it will actually take me to every time poverty is mentioned. So it looks like twice it's mentioned in the reference list, but once it's mentioned in the actual article. So if I read around that, I can see if this is what I'm looking for in terms of finding a good quote. If it's not, then no problem. I just get back out of here and I can go back to my result list, which is right there. And I'm right back at where I started. So that's how you're going to use the SeaArc library website to find a database that you can use to help you locate an article from an online scholarly journal. And once you've located that article, you're going to read through it to find a quote or something that you might want to paraphrase or summarize within your paper. And then you're going to make sure that you get the citation information. Let me show you what that looks like. If I'm going back to that, and over here again, I have those same options. I don't have to pull up the full text to send it to myself. I can email it here, but you see where it says cite? I can pull this up right here, and if I scroll down, it'll show me APA 7th edition, and this is the citation for my references. That's exactly what I would put, so I could just copy and paste that right onto my reference citation page. Okay, so let's say we're done with our information about, we found our article, right? We found what we want to use out of our article. Now, how do we know exactly how to correctly cite that information in the text? And how do we know how to correctly cite that information on a reference list? Now, we've gone over this information in previous videos, but I want to make sure that I'm showing you exactly what it looks like. So I'm going to go back to that resource list. And this time I'm going to click on the link underneath SeaArc Library, and it should say OWL Purdue APA Style Guide. So what OWL Purdue is Purdue University created an online writing lab in which their graduate students are uploading the rules for each style guide. There are 3 major style guides that we use when writing: APA, MLA, and Chicago Style. In this class, we're using APA, but keep in mind that if you ever need to know the rules for MLA or Chicago Style, you can also find that information on Purdue OWL's website. If you ever need to locate this and you don't have that link in your resources, you can always go to Google and type in OWL, OWL, Purdue, and the very first link will take you right to that website. But I'm already here. I followed my link on my resources tab in Moodle, and it brought me to the OWL Purdue APA Style Introduction. Now, if I click on the APA Formatting and Style Guide, it will take me to all the information that I would need to know about APA Formatting and Style Guide. So let's scroll down and look at the general APA guidelines. So it tells us exactly how to format our paper. It says it should be typed, double-spaced, standard size paper with 1-inch margins on all sides. We need a page header at the top of every page. And we're not a professional, so we're going to skip that step. But for a student paper, all we need in that page header is the page number. And we're going to insert the page numbers flush right. Then we're going to go down here to font. What kind of font can we use? Well, it tells us that here are some fonts that have been agreed upon. I am telling you to use this font specifically for our papers, 12 point Times New Roman. There are 4 major sections: title page, abstract, main body, and references. Here, it's going to tell us how to format the title page. It says the title page should contain the title of the paper, the author's name, and the institutional affiliation. Institutional affiliation is who are you writing this for, and it would be SEARC. All caps, SEARK. A professional paper has some other things, but we're only worried about those student papers. So a student paper also needs to include the course number. Our course number is ENGL 1313-2.02. And name, the name of our course is Comp 1. The instructor name, my name is Brittany Dixon, but you can just put Professor Dixon. And the assignment due date. So this is not going to be the day that you're actually writing your paper. This is the day the paper is due. So for the second paper, we should put November 18th, 2022. It tells you to make sure you type your title in upper and lowercase letters centered in the upper half of the page. And then the title should be centered and written in bold. APA recommends that your title be focused and succinct, and that it should not contain abbreviations or words that serve no purpose. All text on the title page and throughout your paper should be double-spaced. Beneath the title, you're going to type the author's name. This is your name. First, middle initial, and last name. Do not use any titles such as doctor or PhD. Beneath the author's name, you're going to type the institutional affiliation. This is where you're going to type all caps SEARK. And we're going to skip this because we are not writing a professional paper. Example of what your title page should look like. Next, let's look at the abstract. I am requiring that you turn in an abstract with your student paper. Sometimes you won't have to turn in an abstract with your student paper, but I want you to get some practice at this for those situations where you may have to turn in an abstract. So, you're going to begin on a brand new page. Each section starts on a new page. The title has its own page. So the title page. Then the abstract has its own page. Then the body of the paper starts on a new page. And then the reference list starts on a new page. So each time you start a new section, you're starting on a new page. It says your abstract page should already include the page header, which is described above. Remember, we only need the number 2. We do not need the title or abbreviated title in our header because that is only necessary in a professional paper. Beginning with the next line, you're going to write a concise, oh, I skipped one. Let's go back up. On the first line of the abstract page, you're going to center and bold the word abstract with no italics, no underlining, and no quotation marks. Look at the example right there. Beginning with the very next line, you're going to write a concise summary of the key points of your research. Keep in mind that your abstract should be no more than 250 words. It should be a single paragraph that's double-spaced. And remember that all paragraphs have at least 4 sentences. You may also want to list keywords from your paper in your abstract. If you're going to do this, you need to start on a new line after the abstract, You're going to indent as if you're starting a new paragraph. All this information is here. You're going to italicize the word keywords, then follow that with a colon and list those keywords after that, putting a comma between them. Now, why would we want to use keywords? Well, keywords are like specific words that you need to define or make sure that the audience defines for themselves before they get started on your paper. And this is not very common in an English class, but it might be extremely important in a science class where there may be terms or words of importance that the audience may not initially know. And you're basically letting them know, hey, these words are so important in my paper that you need to understand what they are before you read the paper. And so this is just a little way of letting the audience member know, look these keywords up before you read my paper. So if we want to see what the body and what the references look like in an actual APA paper, we can click on this link right here that takes us to a sample APA paper. So let's do that. So they've got an APA student paper and an APA professional paper. So I'm going to open this up, make it big, and it's showing you the student paper. Keep in mind, your paper is not going to have a lot of comments on it, and it's not going to be highlighted. This is only here to tell you what specific information is going on in the actual paper. So we've got our title page, and what's missing is the abstract, because remember I said in some student papers they don't have an abstract. In this one they don't have an abstract, but yours will. So page 1, title page. Page 2 would be a brand new page that had abstract, and then page 3 would start here. So when you get to the body of your paper, notice that right in the center, I'm highlighting it now, right in the center of that very first line, in bold, we have our title. This should be the same title that you have up here on your title page. Then we're immediately going to start on the next line with our actual paper. And we want to make sure we indent 1/2 inch for every paragraph. And I want to point this out. You see where they have this highlighted here? This is what an in-text citation looks like sometimes, okay? These are also in-text citations. So let's keep going. Let's find an in-text citation, and we're going to see if we can figure out exactly how to find that information. So if I see an in-text citation that I like, let's say this one right here. Starts with L''HOMMEDIEU. Because I know what is in an in-text citation, I know that this is the last name of the author, and the fact that it says et al. Means that there are more than just one author, but they're not going to list all those authors in this in-text citation. And this particular article or paper or book, whatever it is, was published in 1990. So I'm going to find this information. How do I do that? Well, I got to find the reference list. And this is a very long student paper, so I'm going to scroll all the way down till I get to the reference list. Notice how this is formatted. Again, it's on a brand new page. This is centered. And it says references in bold, centered. On the very next line, we start with the different reference list citations. Notice they're all in alphabetical order. We got lots of them going on, right? But we also need to notice that this hanging indent is going on, right? So I'll show you guys how to do that when I pull up Microsoft Word. But notice that you do need a hanging indent for your reference list, but a regular indent for your paper, okay? And I believe we said, oh, well, it says for the sake of brevity, the rest of the references have been omitted. And R started with an L, which is after D, so it's not going to show up there. But I also saw the word Bloom, example of a book imprint. So this is one of the text citations they had up at the top. And let me show you that again. So I remember seeing Bloom. Right there. Bloom et al., 1956. If I go back down to the in-text citations, look at right here, Bloom, and then et al., because we've got all these different authors, 1956. So this is my citation for that in-text citation. Why do I need all this other information? Why do I need an in-text citation to direct me to a reference list that gives me more information about that same citation? Because I can't put all of this information into my in-text citations every time. It would clutter up the paper, and it would be mostly made up of in-text citations instead of my actual words. So that's why it directs me to this reference list, so I can put the bulk of the information there. And you can already see right out the gate that I'm getting more information than I got in the in-text. I only got Bloom, but here I see Bloom's first initial and middle initial. I also see all the other authors who wrote that book. I see the publication date, which was also in my in-text citation, but here it tells me the title of that book. It tells me who published the book. And now I can actually go out and find this book based on this information. And once I find the book, then I can find the actual citation information to make sure that they didn't misunderstand or misinterpret the book when they were given the citation. I want to look to make sure for myself that my information is correct, that I'm seeing in the paper. That's the whole purpose of citations. But yes, this is what your references page is going to look like. So let's get out of the sample paper. Now we have seen an example of what a title page looks like, what an abstract looks like, and what the body looks like, and what the reference list looks like. Now I'm interested in, what if I need to know exactly how to do an in-text citation? Well, look at all these links we have over here on the left, right? These links will take us to in-text citation information. We have 2 of them. And then we have, how do I cite those reference list citations? Look how many we got of those. We got like 7 of those, right? The reason we have so many more reference list links than in-text citation links is because most of your in-text citations are going to look similar. The reference list citations can look very different depending on what type of source. When I say what type of source, I mean, is it a book? Is it an article? Is it a video? Is it a movie? Is it a poem, right? So depending on the type of citation, the reference list is going to look very different, that citation on the reference list. But most of your in-text citations are going to look very, very similar. So let's look at in-text citations first. So let's look at the basics. This is just going to give me the general information for in-text citations. What do I need to know about that? Well, when using APA format, it says, follow the author date method of in-text citation. This means that the author's last name and the year of publication for the source should appear in the text. For example, parentheses, Jones, 1998. There's the author's last name. There's the publication date. I'm separating those with a comma, and I'm putting them inside of a parentheses. One complete reference for each source should appear in the reference list at the end of the paper. this is what we were talking about going hand in hand. We need an in-text citation. We need a reference list. If I see a reference list citation, I better see an in-text citation for it. And if I see an in-text citation, I better see a reference list that's associated with it. Okay, if you are referring to an idea from another work, but not directly quoting the material, this could be summarizing, this could be paraphrasing, or making reference to an entire book, article, or other work. You only have to make reference to the author and the year of publication, not the page number in your in-text. So if I'm summarizing or I'm paraphrasing, I do not have to put the page number in my in-text citation. On the other hand, look at this one. If you are directly quoting or borrowing from another work, you should include the page number at the end of the parenthetical citation. For example, Jones, comma, 19, well, let's look at this one first. Jones, comma, 1998, comma, P period 199. That's important. We got to put P for one page and PP period for multiple pages. Okay? So, what we're talking about is if that quotation is like at the bottom of a page, on the bottom of page 189, and it goes up to the next page or even onto the third page, you would say it's PP period 199 through 201. But if it's just on one page, then we would just put P period 199. Regardless of how they are referenced, all sources that are cited in the text must appear in the reference list at the end of the paper. So in-text citation, capitalization, quotes, and italics or underlining. Always capitalize proper nouns, including authors' names and initials. If you refer to the title of a source within your paper, you want to capitalize all words that are 4 letters long or greater within the title of a source. For instance, permanence is titled and is not. Change is titled. So we need uppercase for permanence, lowercase for and, uppercase for change. Exceptions apply to short words that are verbs, nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs. For instance, writing new media, there is nothing left to lose. Every single word except for to is capitalized because this verb needs to be capitalized and because this adjective needs to be capitalized. Capitalizing titles, you want to capitalize both words in a hyphenated compound word, such as natural born, natural-born, cyborgs. Capitalize the first word after a dash or colon. So if I have a short work that is in quotation marks and not italicized, it might look like this: Defining Film Rhetoric, colon, The Case of Hitchcock's Vertigo. I'm capitalizing the first word after a dash or colon. So even though the word's the, I'm still going to capitalize it because it came after that colon. If the title of the work is italicized in your reference list, italicize it and use title case capitalization in the text. If the title of the work is not italicized in your reference list, use double quotation marks and title case capitalization, even though the reference list uses sentence case. So, in other words, if we're writing a title in our text, we must make sure that we use capitalization appropriately. You also want to make sure that you italicize all major works. Major works are things like books. And you want to put titles of shorter works within quotation marks. And shorter works could be like a short story or a poem. So if we're talking about a short quotation, and what do I mean by short quotation? Where a long quotation is 40 words or longer. Short quotations, it says if you are directly quoting from a work, you will need to include the author, year of publication, and page number for the reference. So you want to introduce the quotation. You can do that saying like, according to Jones. That would be the author's name. Here you would put the publication right after Jones, inside parentheses, to indicate which Jones we're talking about. We could have multiple authors with the last name Jones. We need to know which publication date we're talking about. And then at the end of the quote, we put another parentheses with the page number, page 199. In parentheses, put the period after the parentheses. Or here, they've put Jones, 1998, found students often had difficulty using APA style. This is the quote. Right after the quote, that's where I put my P period 199 in parentheses to indicate the page I found that on. If you do not include the author's name in the text of the sentence, you want to place the author's last name, year of publication, and the page number in parentheses after the quotation. So if I said something like, she stated, students often had difficulty using APA style, and I have my quotation marks here. I haven't already stated the author's name or the publication date, so I have to do that here now in the in-text citation at the end of, after the quote. So I would put parentheses, Jones, comma, 1998, comma, P period 199, in parentheses. Keep in mind that even if you use the author's last name and put the publication date up here as an introduction to the quotation, you can always put the full thing at the end as well. This is something I've gotten into the practice of doing because sometimes through editing or sometimes just through forgetfulness, I end up forgetting whether I put the author's name in the introduction of the citation, but then I forget and don't put it here. So that's plagiarism because now they have no idea who said this, right? So I've just gotten in the practice of putting the entire set of information, author's last name, publication date, and page number within my parentheses at the end of my, remember, in quotation mark, space, begin parentheses of your in-text citation, in parentheses. Okay, so what do we do if we have one of those long quotes where there's 40 words or longer? So what we want to do is make sure that we place those direct quotations of 40 words and longer in a freestanding block of typewritten lines and omit any quotation marks. It's going to look like this, right? You see how this is a block and I don't have any quotation marks. Also, we want to make sure that we start the quotation on a new line and indent that 1/2 inch from the left margin in the same place you would begin a new paragraph. So here I've introduced the quote, Jones's 1998 study found the following, colon. Then I hit enter, start a new paragraph, but I indent the entire thing, and in this paragraph, all I'm putting is the quotation itself with no quotation marks. At the end of that quote, that's where I would put parentheses, page number, in parentheses. The longer quotes do not have a period after that parentheses. Then I would hit enter again, fix my indentation, and I would start right here on the left side and finish that paragraph. Because remember, this is a paragraph and this is the rest of the paragraph, okay? I'm only indenting this because it is a long quote that has to be indented and set off as a block quote without quotation marks, okay? Now, down here, it gives us some information. What do we do if we have quotations from sources without pages? Well, sometimes you might need to use the paragraph numbers or table numbers. And what do I do if I'm summarizing or paraphrasing? If you are paraphrasing an idea from another work, you only have to make reference to the author and the year of publication. So those are the basic rules of in-text citation, but what does that look like practically? And I want some examples, right? So I'm going to go to in-text citation author/authors, and here it gives me more specific ideas of some of those maybe extra special cases of in-text citations that we wouldn't normally come across. What do I do with a work by one author? Well, it gives you some examples down here. What do I do if, and notice there's no page numbers in any of these, but if we are directly quoting, we must use those page numbers. Okay, also, what do I do if I'm citing a non-standard author, or I have a work by 3 or more authors, or a work by 2 authors, or if I have an unknown author? You notice they have almost every scenario, right? So there's no reason that you should ever not be able to find how to cite something. It's got every type. I mean, we've got every type of information here. So you should be able to figure out how to correctly do an in-text citation of any type of source with any type of author. Now let's look at some of these reference lists. Go to reference list, basic rules, and that's going to show me the basic rules for most sources. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these. There's a lot of rules, so I would suggest read through those on your own. Basic rules for articles in academic journals, that's going to be important too, right? Because that's exactly what we're looking at. But instead of reading all those off for you, I'm going to show you some examples. So I'm going to go down to reference list books first, because this is how we're going to actually do the reference list citation for our book. So if I look at basic format for books, it gives me what information goes where, and then it gives me an actual example of what that would look like in real life. But notice, it doesn't just give me any type of book. It says a basic format for books, and then it goes on to, again, every type of book you could imagine. Edited book, no author. Edited book with an author or authors. Translated book. Edition other than the first. Article or chapter in an edited book. Multi-volume work. So for ours, though, don't fret. You only need to worry about this top one. Basic format for books. So it says our author's last name, comma, first initial, period, middle initial, period, if we have that information. Then, within parentheses, the year of publication, period. Then, italicized, the title of the work, period. Then, the publisher name, period. Then, a DOI, if available. And I'm just going to let you know, a DOI is only for electronic sources, and a DOI basically takes the place of a URL. But we know those URLs, when we copy and paste those from the top of a website, those can often be very, very long. So a DOI is basically a shorter list of numbers that is assigned to specific URLs, such as ebooks and articles, so that you can use that DOI for citations instead of those big, long URLs. And they work the same way. You copy and paste a DOI into your web browser, and it's going to immediately take you to that book or that article. But again, our book is not an electronic book. It is a hard copy book. So how would I do that for our book? Well, the author's last name is Tirado, comma, her first initial is L, period, and we don't know the middle initial. How do I find the publication date? Well, on my title page, and my title page tells me that the publication date is 2015, so I'm going to put that in parentheses, period. Then I'm going to put the title in italics, hand to mouth, italicized. Then I'm going to put a period after that, and I'm going to list the publisher's name. The publisher of my specific book is the Berkeley Publishing Group. So that's where I would put the Berkeley Publishing Group, period. And that's all I need for my book. That's all I need for the reference list for my book. Now, how about the reference list for my article? Well, this is where I'm going to look under reference list electronic sources, because I found it on an electronic source on my computer, right? So I'm going to scroll down. Is it a web page or piece of online content? Not really. Is it a Wikipedia article? No. Is it an online scholarly journal article? Yes. And then here we've got with a DOI assigned and with no DOI assigned. So whether or not your article has a DOI will determine whether you're going to use this top one or this bottom one, okay? So again, it's just like with the book. It tells me what goes in every place, and then it gives me a good example of what that looks like. So that's going to be the author's last name, first and middle initial, if we have it, and author's last name if we have more than one. Here we have three. 1, 2, 3 authors, period. Then the year of publication, period, in parentheses. Then the title of the article, Development and Validation of the Active Empathic Listening Skill. That's their title, period. Then the title of the periodical that we found that article in. Remember, I told you articles and journals are very similar to like magazines. So it's like the article title and then the article or the magazine title. So this is the article title and this is the periodical title or the journal title. So here it's the journal or the periodical is called Psychology and Marketing, and I'm going to italicize that, comma. Sometimes you know how magazines can have volumes and issues, well, so can journals. So I'm going to put the volume number here, 23, and then in parentheses I'm going to put the issue number, 2, comma, and then the page numbers that my article is found on within that journal. So the page numbers for this one was 161 through 180, period. And then I'm going to put the DOI right afterwards. And here is the DOI for this specific article. So again, your information can be found on your article, but it's so much easier if you use that EBSCOhost website and use the citation that I showed you, that citation tool on the side, on the right side. So we've looked closely at how to use OWL Purdue Online. I want to quickly show you guys how we can also format some of this stuff in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to pull up a blank document. I'm going to show you how I go through making sure everything is exactly how it should be. So the first thing I do is I click on Times New Roman because I want my entire document in Times New Roman. Let's scroll down for a little bit faster. Where is it? There it is. And then I'm going to select my size 12-point font. Then I'm going to go over here underneath the paragraph section, line and paragraph spacing, and I'm going to go to 2.0 because I need it to be double spaced throughout. Times New Roman, 12-point font, making sure everything's done correctly. Now, I can also go down here underneath the 2.0 where I did the line and spacing, and I can remove space after paragraphs. What that does is every time you hit enter, if you don't remove that space, it creates extra space, and it's very obvious, and we're not supposed to have that extra space. So how can I possibly make sure about the margins? Well, I can go over here to Layout, Margins, and it gives me the margins. I can do custom margins, but usually in a Microsoft Word document, it's already set to normal, which is 1 inch all the way around, just like we're supposed to have it. Now I'm going to go back home. Everything's set up. Now I need to do my header. So I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Header. I'm going to go to that built-in blank header. I just need it to be blank. I'm going to put what I need in there. So I'm going to double tap that. Now I'm going to go back to Home. I'm going to put my alignment on the right side because I need the page number on the right. Then I'm going to go back to Insert. I'm going to go to Page Number, which is right next to Header. I'm going to go down to Current Position because I want that page number to be right where my cursor is currently. And my cursor is right there, if you can't tell. It's grayed out. And then I'm going to click under Current Position, Plain Number. I don't want any of these accent bars. I need it to be just the number. Boom. My page number is in there. I'm going to double click out of that, and now I'm going to hit enter until I go to the next page, and you'll see it automatically puts that page number at the top no matter how many pages I have. See? Automatically. So once I set it, I can forget it. I don't have to think about it anymore. So I'm going to go back up here to the very top. Now I've got my page number. I've got all of my font settings and my spacing settings and my margin settings correct. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to center my title. And remember, it said it needs to be in the first half of the page. I'm going to hit enter a couple of times. Then I'm going to put title. But remember, it said we have to bold that title, so I'm going to bold that. And then after title, I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to take the bold off because I don't need anything else bold. Then I'm going to put the author's name. That would be your name. Then I'm going to put institution name, which is CARC. Then I'm going to put its name. So I can just put ENGL space 1313 space 2.02. And then I can put the professor's name. And then I'm going to put the date that it's due, which is November 18th, 2022. Now I need to start over here on this page. I need to center this top line. I'm going to write abstract, and then I'm going to bold that. And then onto the second line, I'm going to go to the left alignment, and I'm going to take bold off. And now I'm going to pretend like I'm typing my abstract. Remember, in the abstract, we do not need to indent. So let's say I'm finished with my abstract. Let's pretend like I have keywords. I am going to tab and indent for the keywords. I'm going to type keywords, and then I'm going to italicize that. Now I'm going to take italicize off. I'm going to put a colon, and let's say these are my keywords. Now, I'm going to go to the third page, and I'm going to start the body of my paper. Remember, I got to center that title again, and I'm putting the title that I put on my first title page, bold that, hit enter to get to the next line, take the bold off, alignment left, and then I'm going to tab. And for the body of my paper, I want to have a 1/2 indentation. And we're going to pretend like that's the end of my paper, okay? We know that it has to be at least 3 pages, but we're going to pretend that it is 3 pages. Now over here, I'm going to do my references list. Remember, I have to center references. I have to bold references, just like I did with all the other titles. Hit enter onto the next line, go to the left, and then I'm going to start typing my references. So let's pretend like, oh, we forgot, I forgot to take off my bold. So I got to take bold off. But then I'm going to go through and I'm going to, this is my first reference. Boom, hit enter. This is my second reference. So we're going to pretend like the first one's my article, the second one's my book. Now, how do I get that hanging indent? I'm going to highlight my references. I'm going to go back up to this paragraph, and you see how it's got this paragraph settings. Once I click on that, I go down to special, hanging, okay, and now I've got the hanging indent. And that's how you format your paper. Okay, guys, so don't forget, you have a quiz due tomorrow. You have your discussion board due tomorrow. And you also have your essay to do tomorrow. Today, you were supposed to have already sent me your rough draft so that we could do the peer reviews. If you have not sent me your rough draft yet, please make sure you go ahead and send that to me by midnight tonight. If you don't send it to me by midnight tonight, you will not be able to participate in your peer review. And if you are in my Fundamentals of Writing class, you are definitely going to need to participate in that peer review to get your points for your Fundamentals of Writing class. Even if you're not in Fundamentals of Writing, it is very helpful to get a peer to review your paper. So make sure you send that to me. When we are going to do the peer reviews, I will send your peer's paper to you, and you will go back through that video from your introduction to Fundamentals of Writing and listen to the instructions on how to perform the peer review. All right, guys, have a good week. Next week is Thanksgiving break, and I will be posting a video, but the video will be uploaded on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. I hope you have a great weekend, and if you need any help, make sure you email me. Call me during my office hours, or come by during office hours if that's an option for you. Bye-bye.